Welcome students to a tutorial for lesson 13. We are on level 8 and I'm going to take you through sections A through E, and we can do these together. So if you've already finished one of these, you can skip ahead in the video to find the section that you need help with. Okay, so if you have finished level 7, you should already have some fish that are moving like this to the left of the screen, and make sure that the blue one should be moving a little bit faster and the green is the slowest and the orange in between. So we have the speeds correct according to this GIF over here, but if we notice, there's also some random movement to our fish as well. There's some random rotation, it looks like. So I want us to first note it is not spinning around. The fish is not spinning. So we're not going to use the counter pattern. It looks like rather we're just making it shake a little bit. So how can we make it shake? Well, we're going to want to mess with which one of these properties do you think? If you guessed rotation, you guessed correctly. So let's start with the orange fish perhaps. And we can't just set it to any angle, because if I set it to 10 degrees or something, you can see it's still not changing. We want it to be changing every time it goes through the loop. So what we want it to do is every time it goes through the loop, it selects a random number. And now you'll notice it's shaking a little bit. I want it to go maybe -5 to +5. And now you'll notice there's a bit of a wiggle there, because every time it goes through, it's going to change it for the orange fish, the angle. Now you can do the same thing for the blue fish and the green fish. I'm going to go to text mode. I'm going to copy and paste this one twice. And I'm going to do the same thing for the blue fish and for the green fish. And now they all should be wiggling. Okay, everybody, that is part A. Let's move on to part B. Use ellipses to make bubbles rise to the surface. So, we want bubbles to be popping up from the screen here, from the bottom. So, we're going to do that using the ellipse command. These are just circles. And so, I am going to draw a new ellipse each time. And let's think about where I want it to start. I would want it to start at the bottom. Okay, and I don't want it to be so big. If I run it now, you'll notice it's too big and the color's wrong. So let us set up, there is a command here called no fill. Put that at the top. And let's turn the stroke to be white. Okay. And these can be 50 and 50. That'll change the size as well. That's even still too big. Let's maybe go 10 and 10. Okay, like 15. And we want it to start at the bottom, so our Y value should be 400, at least to start. We're going to probably change that. So what we need to do is we need a variable to keep track of the Y location, right? Because the Y value is going to be changing here. So let's start with a Y variable for 400. So let's create a variable. And it's going to start off at 400. And this is where we're going to draw our ellipse. So let's, instead of writing 400, let's just write Y there for our ellipse. So now you'll see it's at the bottom there. But we want it to move up, so what should happen to the value of Y? It should decrease. So what we should do each time is Y equals Y minus 1. That is the counter pattern. And now you'll see it's moving upwards. Okay, we're going to want two other ellipses. So I'm going to do the same line of code. You can type it in or use the blocks or copy and paste. It's up to you. And now I have 3 ellipses, but they're all in the same spot. So that's why I can only see one of them. So maybe I change the x values a little bit. Maybe the first one is going to be 100. and the second one is going to be maybe 250. And now you will see I have 3 bubbles rising. But if we look at the GIF, you'll also notice they are starting at different locations, it seems. So the way we can do that is maybe I can just stagger them a little bit. Maybe the second Y, I make it start 10 pixels lower, so it should come up next. Good. And the third one comes way later, so maybe I start that one like 50 pixels lower. And there we go. Now I have 3 bubbles rising through my screen. Next up, part C. Add a shark. Okay, so this is going to need a sprite, right? Because this shark is a sprite. It's not an ellipse. We can't just use a shape for it. So let's go ahead and create a sprite. And let's think what name makes the most sense. I would say shark makes the most sense for this sprite. And then we need to set the costume. And it looks like they have not added a costume yet, so we need to add our own shark. Oops. And you can pick whichever one you like. I'm going to pick the same one they used. Shark_1 is the name of the costume. So let me click there. And now you'll see I have a shark. It's a little bit big though. So how could we change the size? Remember, sprite.scale is what sets the size. 0.5. Let's go. Let's see how that is. Oops, I forgot. Okay, that looks like an appropriate size. Maybe a little bigger because it should be bigger than the fish, I think. And where should it start? Well, it looks like it starts off on the left side of the screen. So let's give it x equals 0, y equals 300. There we go. Maybe even further to the left. I can even send it off the screen, -100 for the x. There we go. Okay, so we've got the shark in there, but how do we make it move? We need to adjust the property using the counter pattern. So the question is, if we wanted to make it move to the right, which one of these properties should we adjust? Let's change the y. Oops, sorry, the x, because we want it to move to the right. So shark.x, and here comes the counter pattern. We want it increasing, right? X is increasing as you move to the right. So what should we do? Shark x equals shark x plus 1. And now, let's have a look. Our shark is moving. If you want it to move faster, what can we do? We can make this number like 3. And now our shark is moving a little quicker. That's all for section C. Let's try section D. Add a falling starfish. We are going to need another sprite. This is a new sprite. It looks like there's starfish over here. So I'm going to create one called Starfish. And it's starting at the top of the screen. So, and on the left side, let's say my x is equal to 100, maybe 75. And my y, it starts at the very top, so y should equal 0. And I haven't set a costume. Let me set an animation. I'll say starfish dot set animation. Let me choose a starfish. I just can search starfish. You can pick the one you like. That one's kind of funny. Whoa. Let's see how big it is. We might have to scale it down a little bit. Yep, that is way too big. So let's do sprite.scale. Let's change this to starfish.scale equals, let's say 0.1. Tiny starfish. Much better. Okay, so let's look at the movement here. If you look at the GIF, the starfish is moving down the screen, and it is rotating. So first, let's see if we can get it to move downwards. Hopefully by now you'll know that we need the counter pattern. starfish dot y equals starfish dot y, and we want it going down the screen. That's actually increasing y plus 1. Now our starfish is moving down. Maybe we want it a little faster. Okay, and now we want our starfish to rotate as well. So what other property do we need to change? Rotation. Starfish. Now the rotation makes it sound like if you just put a number here, it will rotate like 15, but it'll change to that angle. Look what happens if I change it, but it doesn't move. See, it rotates, but it doesn't move. So you need to use the counter pattern every time it goes through. We need to add 1. There we go. And if you want it to spin a little faster, we can do plus 5 maybe. And there goes our rotating starfish. Let's move on to section E. All right, this one is a little bit different. We have a new fish that is getting bigger. So it sort of looks like it's coming at the camera, but that's because it's getting larger. So let's go ahead and add a new sprite. I'll do this under my other ones. Let's call this fish 4. And we need to choose an animation. So fish 4 dot set animation. Let's find a good costume for this guy. Let's see, fish. Oh man. There we go. That one looks like the one they choose. Gameplay adventure. Gameplay adventure something. And let's choose that costume. And now I have this fish. But I want it to start off a lot smaller. Notice it starts small and gets big. So I need to set the scale. Let's set fish 4 dot scale equals 0. We could just start with 0. It'll be invisible to start. But what should happen as we move along? The scale should increase. So I can do fish 4 dot scale. So now I'm using the counter pattern with the scale. Fish 4 dot scale plus, and you don't want to do 1 because notice it's going to become too big too quick. See? So I want to, because scale should usually just go from 0 to 1, so I want to increase by a much smaller number, maybe by 0.1. That's still pretty quick. Why don't I do 0.01? So you can decide, the smaller you make this number, I might make it 0.005. The smaller you make this number, the slower your fish is going to grow. But it still does what it says in the GIF over here. So feel free to get more creative by adding more moving sea creatures. You can take this as far as you'd like, but you have finished A through E, so we are done. Great job, everybody.